Candace is here for grants because she wants to get that elevated. And one in that elevator, that path, whatever. Yeah. Because the thing is, my understanding is it's a key card. Because he sent something to me, like, get it done, and I'm like, no, but I'm just going to and I sent it to Jessica, and they said, hey, there's no way that the class could do, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is the regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees of the County Independent School District. Today is December 17th, 2019. The time is 5:31. And we'll go to the first agenda item. Actually, the next one would be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody, do we have anybody here from
The contest winners.
Yes, the contest winners?
All the kids, the contest
All the
winners,
kids.
the art.
The art contest.
All of them played and the creative.
Come on up. Come on up.
Oh, that's what we have.
The creative ones. Come on up here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is so beautiful. Very nice. Okay, that takes us to the next agenda item.
Mrs. Brigham? Present. Mr. Coronado?
Here?
Mr. Bayan?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Present.
Mrs. Searles? Here. Mrs. Trout? And Mrs. Iglesias?
And Miss Iglesias did call in that she is out of town and will not be able to attend. All right, that takes us to the County Independent School District Vision and Mission Statements. Ms. Searles and Ms. Brigham, would y'all like to read this for us? And for the
vision.
apologize. For the record, Ms. Kraft is joining us.
Vision statement. CISD is a premier district preparing tomorrow's best today with innovative, future-focused learning opportunities for every student.
Our mission statement. Our mission is to create rigorous, student-centered classrooms which develop future-ready students to compete in a global economy and thrive in a multicultural world.
Thank you, Ms. Rose and Ms. Brigham. Takes us to the next agenda item.
Item 2, board honors.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Board President Coronado, members of the board, Dr. Calavis. Please join us in the front of the dais to begin our monthly board recognitions.
All right, everybody.
San Theo ISD holds an annual holiday card art contest each year. The winning artwork is used in designing the district annual holiday card, which is sent out to about 300 recipients, including dignitaries, elected officials, former school board members, partners in education, and friends of the district, as well as employees. The theme for this year was 60th anniversary for elementary, and the theme for secondary was back-to-back A's. The winners are, From Jose Damian Elementary, Ariane Rodriguez. Can we have a picture with principal and family?
Right in the middle.
That's her pad. That's her pad.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
This is.
From Jose Algarete Middle School, Diana Monge.
Very nice. Awesome. Oh, yes, I saw that.
That was our cover.
Wow, that's awesome.
Can I ask the family and principal to come up for a photo?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
From Northwest Early College High School, Sofia Alvarez.
Is it desert animal? Is that coyote or coyote?
I just find it something new when you see other people. It keeps you up of what you're doing your time.
Good job. Those.
Can I ask the principal and family to join us in the front for a photo?
Can her art teacher come?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Which colors are you? Which class? My daughter?
Hey. You step back with me?
That's all right, that's all right. I'll go on there. There you go.
Okay, you can go back a little more. Sorry. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys.
I got 2 more.
Thank you
I got 2 more.
so much.
I got 2 more phones.
One more, good.
This one? All right.
Thank you.
And also from Northwest is Adonis Reeves.
Oh, beautiful. Very nice. I like the wreath. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Yeah. Modern.
Oh, that's pretty.
Tommy, join us for a photo?
Okay.
It's just the.
Right in the middle.
Okay.
Can you go in the middle? Yeah, please.
Maybe I can get it at the same
Right
time.
there. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Can I ask the 4 artists to come up to take a picture with the board? If I can just have the 4 artists.
Okay.
You want them with the photo?
Yes, with their photo.
With your photo, please. With that one. Uh-huh. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations again, good job. El Paso Community College has been hosting a K-12 art competition for the past 18 years. Art teachers from school around the region have students submit their artwork for a jury competition. This year, there were 95 teachers with 1,238 submissions in 4 grade level divisions, kindergarten through 12th grade. Over the past 8 years, Algarete Middle School has competed in this regional event. AMS's art students have won honorable mention, 3rd place, and 1st place. We are proud to announce that this year, Algarete 8th grader Marisol Najera won top honors, the President's Award in the Middle School Division 3 for her Peace Eyes. This is a huge accomplishment and the highest honor. Congratulations to Marisol, art teacher Estela Ramos, Dr. Oscar Rico, and all of AMS for an outstanding art program and outstanding Can family, teacher, principal join us up front for a photo, please?
Oh, yeah. Come here.
No, you can.
Mom? Congratulations. Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise you. Get right there. Get right there. Nope, you go right there.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And can I take one here, please?
Sure.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Me too, me too, me too, me too, me too.
Mr. Ramos.
Here we go.
You better give it. You better be good. You will.
Congratulations, Marisol. Board members, this concludes this month's recognitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Oh, she's an amazing teacher.
He's gonna be Taylor's Christmas picture. He's in the laundry basket. I found him in there in the morning. I was like, what the heck are you doing in there? Taylor was so cute.
about that, guys. What great artists we have, huh? All right, Pancho, that takes us to the next agenda item.
Item 3, open forum. Any person wishing to address the board during the period reserved for public comment at a board meeting must sign up to be heard in accordance with district policy BED local. Each participant will be limited to 3 minutes to make comments to the board. The board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Further information on these policies, contact the superintendent's administrative assistant. Mr. President, we have 2 speakers today.
All right, thank you. Would you please call them up?
The first one is Janice Marcus.
Marcus?
Should I get it or?
Jamie Marcus, I'm sorry,
Oh, I'm
I tried to
sorry.
make it clear. Double E is the correction. Jamie. Hi, how are y'all?
Good evening.
Good. My name is Jamie Marcus, and I am a parent of one of the students that attends Jose Bernal Elementary. My daughter is a part of the program that they just started this year. It's the inclusion class that incorporates the pre-K students as well as the PGCB students. And, well, my concern, the reason I'm here, is because my daughter's had numerous incidences where she's come home with golf-sized bruises on her forehead, scrapes on the side of her eye. And yes, we know that children get hurt, they fall, they scrape themselves. But my daughter, she's, how can I say, right now, her speech is delayed. So she does need that extra voice if something happens so that she can clearly communicate what did happen. Because when I do get calls from the hospital, not the hospital, I'm sorry, the nurse, I get different stories, and that's my concern, that the communication isn't clear, that the help isn't, the eyes, aren't there, enough eyes are in the classroom to watch these little 5-year-olds that are running around. I mean, I can contest that. I have my nephews and nieces watching 4 of them, imagine 15 with 2 students, or two adults, and the classroom is quite large. So I can imagine why, you lose sight of one, and something can happen, and it doesn't even have to be my daughter. But what my concern is that, or what's unfortunate, is that from September or August really to this first week of December, I don't like to think this way. I shared this with my family, that I have to wonder if she's gonna come home with a scrape or a bump. And that bump was concerning because it lasted over a week and a half. I did discuss this. I did have a meeting with Mr. Barba and Ms. Spencer, who is her teacher. And I feel in our meeting that we're in agreement that this assistance is a benefit for the classroom. And unfortunate because of funding and, from what I understood with Mr. Barba, it's above his pay grade, so this is not his choice. So this is something I feel that this program is a great program. She is benefiting from being with her peers that are, in their, what can I say, milestones that they've reached. She's learning from them, but to have that assistance would benefit not just her, but also her teachers, and so that this program can succeed. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Second speaker, Rachel Gutierrez.
Good evening, Dr. Galaviz, President, School President, Mr. Coronado, board members. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Gutierrez, and I have one student here in Canopillo, and I'm so pleased to be in Canopillo. It's great. And there are two things I want to discuss with you. LED lights and solar panels. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, rapid adoption of LED light bulbs would save hundreds of millions of tons of greenhouse gases from entering our atmosphere. Australia, China, and numerous other countries in Asia and Latin America have phased out their regular light bulbs, saving each country millions of dollars annually. And also, according to the Department of Energy, over $265 million are saved annually, and it also eliminates the need to build 40 new power plants. Light bulbs are durable and solid, and they do not break easy. They also don't create heat buildup. No mercury is used to manufacture these light bulbs. Solar panels produce electricity from the sun. We are so fortunate to live here in El Paso that we have about 297 days of sun. That's money in our pocket. By using the solar panels, this is energy that is used in our homes through the solar panels. In San Antonio, if a homeowner installs solar panels, they are given a huge reduction in taxes, and utility bills are cut almost completely. A friend of mine here in El Paso has solar panels. She has a 4,000 square foot home. Her electric bill runs $25 a month. I feel it would be very reasonable for our district to look into the financial benefits of LED lights and solar panels for Canutillo. But first, remember to be upfront, ask up in front how much it would cost for the solar panels, for the LED lights, so that there's no surprises at the end, so we would know exactly what we're getting into. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Item 4, Board of Trustee business. A, consider and take action to elect and install board officers for the Board of Trustees, reorganization of the board per BDAA, legal and local. Officers, officials, duties, and requirements of board officers.
All right. And at this point, as we do every year, we will consider and take action to install board officers, and we will start with the office of board president.
Mr. Chair,
Rodriguez.
I'll nominate you, Vice President.
All right, we have a nomination.
I've already got this stuff.
Second, do we have any other nominations?
What was the nomination? For president? For president?
For president. Okay. Having no
I
other
would like to
nominations?
nominate, for president, Annette River.
Okay, we have 2 nominations. Okay, then we will, at this point, take up the, election, I guess, with, any further nominations, right, at this point? No more nominations? Okay, then, I guess we can take it up as for the first nomination, let's take a vote.
Do you have a second for Ms. Brigham?
I'll second. I'll make a motion.
All right, there is a motion to cease nomination. I'll second that motion. Second, all right, so we're voting on, to cease nominations at this time, and I'll hold the board. Ms. Brigham?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Layam? To cease nominations? Oh, yes. Right. Ms. Searles? Ms. Rao?
Yes.
All right, so motion passes, then, we have 2 nominations for the office of board president. And first, I guess let's take up the first one, and that would be for, myself. Hold the board.
Ms. Brigham?
Yes.
Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
Mrs. Trout? No.
All right, then The motion passes.
Motion passes.
We will now take up then, for election of the board vice president. Yes, Ms. Brady.
I'd like to nominate,
I'm sorry, sir. I would like to nominate the Vice President, Mrs. Diane.
And I'll second that.
All right. We have, one nomination for the office of board vice president. Do we hear any other nominations?
I'll make a motion as nomination.
All right, then we will move to cease nominations.
I'll second.
All right. Then, I guess by that account, let's take a vote. There's only one nomination, but let's go ahead and take a vote.
Ms. Brigham? Yes. Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Bayan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Searles?
Yes.
And Ms. Strauss? Yes.
All right,
Motion
then
passes.
we go to the next agenda, to the next item, board secretary, and I would like to nominate Mr. Rodriguez. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Brigham.
All right, Ms. Brigham is nominated. Do I hear a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further nominations?
I'll move to cease nomination.
All right, there's a motion to cease, nominations. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Then we were voting on the motion to cease. Marcia?
Yes. Ms. Brigham? Yes. Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Bayan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Searles?
Yes.
Ms. Strauss? Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Now to vote for Mr. Rodriguez. That was for cease.
Yes, not to vote on Mr. Rodriguez, election.
Ms. Brigham? No. Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Bayan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ms. Searles?
No.
Ms. Strauss? Yes. Motion passes.
All right, so that, takes care of the election of the board officers as is required every year. So I want to congratulate the new officers. That takes us to,
Item B.
item B.
Workforce Solutions Borderplex CTE Plan Outcomes that Build Incomes.
Okay,
Good evening. President Coronado, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Galvez. Tonight's CTE presentation will be one of a series of presentations, but specifically tonight, Workforce Solutions Borderplex will be sharing information about their hot jobs list. Ms. Layla Melendez is the Chief Operating Officer for Workforce Solutions Borderplex. She'll review with us the CTE programs we currently have in place as it compares to the hot jobs list. Where we should focus our attentions in the future as far as programs and CTE goes. So with that said, I will introduce Layla Melendez from Workforce Solutions Borderplex.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for having me. I'm Layla Melendez. I represent the Workforce Solutions Borderplex. We are the Regional Workforce Development Board. And I want to thank you all for having us here today and for the great partnership that we have with our superintendent and with Ms. Andrews and the CTE group. And so we have a really fantastic way of communicating about the curriculum that you all are providing to the students and how it aligns to the industries that are here in El Paso. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what we do and how the work that we do and the research that we do can benefit Ms. Andrews and the district specifically and the students into the different pathways for careers for your students. So I'm going to attempt to look at that screen and then I think you're going to advance like this if you can go through it really quickly. So this is just a quick intro for yourselves and for the audience about who Workforce Solutions Borderplex is. We are the Regional Workforce Development Board and we're governed by a federal law. And our purpose is to, thank you. Our purpose is to strengthen the Texas and regional economy by providing workforce development and increasing skills. Historically, we have only been reactive, meaning we've supported those that are unemployed and those with barriers to employment. But today, we will always continue to do that. But we are also very market driven, meaning we help grow the talent that companies will need in the future. We direct our training dollars, our funds, towards supporting school districts and post-secondary institutions and align curriculum to ensure that our graduates have in-demand jobs above a living wage. Go ahead. So the way we do this in a way that we can communicate out to the public in general is we develop a list of hot jobs every year. And how we develop this list, there's a long list of hundreds of different jobs available across the country. So how do we whittle it down and identify which ones are going to be those that are in demand and those that are the best jobs? So we have come up with 3 factors, and if they meet all 3 criteria, they are considered a hot job. And we do this for our region specifically, the occupations and the data that's relevant in El Paso. So if it's a hot job, it has 20 or there's current demand, 20 or more job openings today. Today there shows a 10% or more growth in the next 10 years, and it pays above a living wage, and right now that is $12.31. And the living wage, we define it as the wage that individuals need, adults need in a household to live off of other government programs or government assistance, which is the goal, which is to be self-sustaining and self-sufficient in life. So if those 3 criteria are met, then that is considered a hot job. And right now, and like I said, we update this list every year, and right now we have 68 hot jobs in El Paso, and we refresh this list every year. So we take this list, and what we wanted to do is, in speaking with Ms. Andrews and your assistant superintendent, is we wanted to look at the different CTE programs that you all offer here and crosswalk it with the hot jobs and with some of the industries that are forthcoming here in El Paso, and just in general talk a little bit about our reaction and perhaps a recommendation. So first and foremost, and looking at the agricultural programs, what our recommendation would be when it comes to power, structural, and technical systems, all of those certifications are absolutely aligned with the construction industry. I think it'd be a good idea to look at either replacing those courses with maybe drafting or cost estimating or construction management. There's a lot of construction happening right now in the community. Those construction companies are needing some of those types of skills, drafting, estimating, and then actually managing the construction projects. One thing is to have the labor, and labor is being pulled from different sources, but the hot jobs is really in those higher level types of skills within that industry. When it comes to agricultural and animal sciences, there's right now a licensed veterinary technician. Vet tech is not on our target occupations list or hot jobs list due to the low wage. It's gonna pay less than the living wage. So an individual that is in that occupation will not be above that amount. But I think there's an opportunity. You have some foundation here, and perhaps upgrade it with smart farming curriculum, zoonotics, which looks at diseases that animals get, like in herds and things like that, and how that affects food and the food that we generate from that. Renewable energy, environmental engineering, land preservation. We have a lot of open space. What are the effects of growth? And so those are different things that you can maybe look at when it comes to agriculture. In the business program, we're recommending to perhaps upgrade or add a project management certificate. When it comes to having skills in an office setting, employers today are looking for more project management type base. It's not just small tasks that individuals are having to do, they're having to manage projects from start to finish, and that involves multiple tasks in there. So a project management certificate might be really helpful. A certified purchasing consultant, for example, or data mining. Data analysis is very important and critical now in business. That might be something that you all consider as well. When it comes to AV, I think incorporating drones and a drone curriculum into one or several of your CTE programs would go a very long way, especially here. The examples that I just mentioned about land preservation, agriculture, even public safety. I mean, drone can go into a lot of areas, including GPS, geospatial measuring and pointing of locations. For graphic design, also in your audiovisual, everything is moving online, so shifting that focus a little bit more to e-commerce, a link to marketing, and everything that's virtual videos, virtual reality, adding those types of components to your CTE programs would be helpful. On the next page, we recommend keeping all of the things that are listed here for healthcare, because healthcare is such a critical industry, not only for our region, but regions across the country. So there's always going to be job demand in medical. When it comes to hospitality and tourism, the culinary arts pathway, we're recommending that maybe perhaps the course with the food handler's card be suspended. That occupation is saturated and wages are low. People in food service and in food and beverage and in that service are they're considered entry level occupations into the world of work. But if you could develop a pathway and link it with post-secondary where they learn the foundations and then they obtain other, and there's some other examples in here, a pathway with a post-secondary institution to continue down some culinary programs might be helpful, and I'll talk about that a little bit. The same with human services, with early childhood development and education is one of our growing industries. Connecting those courses with a post-secondary institution where they can continue and obtain associates or bachelor's degrees would be helpful. And when it comes to law enforcement, incorporating drone technology here would be huge. When it comes to STEM, again, all of the STEM programs, we definitely think you can keep those and connect with post-secondary to continue on that pathway. And then the last page of the programs takes us back to some of the conversations we had about drone. But in architecture and construction technology, the certificate for NCCR is a really great foundation. Adding drone certificates in here would be helpful. I listed some of the examples in the last page. So I think keeping with, start using what you have as a foundation and then adding just some more current curriculum, adding some technology, and then describing it a little bit differently to the students and to the parents would help them understand the changing dynamics of that environment. And the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about those examples. So we are very much following and trying to create the workforce and help school districts, other post-secondary organizations follow and understand what the impact of the Internet of Things are. Everything now is connected to the internet. Our home thermostats, our car ignitions, our refrigerators, everything is connected. And so data from those consumables are teaching companies how we behave and how we continue to change our human behavior. And so machines are learning, and they are going to continue to transform business, and all of the skills that go with that are also going to continue to change. Public safety, there's always a big interest in our youth to follow public safety, and we have a large public safety presence here in El Paso, and that's certainly a great thing, but public safety is also going to move online. It's no longer just the uniforms and the cars on the streets, but there is absolutely going to be, and many companies already have this, online police presence, cybersecurity, that's your online police force. Creating more of those cybersecurity, online public safety types of programs would be, I think, appealing for young people. Construction of the future, for example, a 3D printing of materials. On a job site, a 3D printer would go a long way in printing little, nicks and knacks that they might need on a construction site, nails, tools, etc., that a 3D printer would be capable of doing. Those are some of the things that we're seeing in the construction industry. And also, there's a company here in the region actually that is using drones to measure roofs so that they can replace roofs. So those are things that maybe our young people have a different perception of what the construction industry might be or what public safety might be, but they're maybe missing what the future of those industries entails and how it's evolving and changing, and there's a different opportunity and a different conversation to have with them and trying to get them back into a broader range of industries and not just one or two. Lastly, the last example was farming of the future. We just heard about this example. The ability to measure the amount of chlorophyll in plants that would then tell you how much more or less fertilizer you need. So that's all part of smart farming. So I think incorporating the technology into your CTE programs across the board, regardless of what industries they are, is really our recommendation, is find a way to incorporate technology and industry recognized credentials that a high school student graduating from the 12th grade can transfer immediately into a post-secondary pathway and also into a job in that field, and they can start to apply that right away. So lastly, just a reminder of who we are as an organization. The last slide, please. We are happy and will continue to provide current labor market data access, and then we're happy to provide and to link you all with the post-secondary institutions. There's great examples of districts partnering with different tech schools, community college, UTEP, et cetera, and developing pathways for certain occupations. We also can help you with access to employers. Employers really do like hiring high school students that are learning some of these skills and at different schedules, and we have a great program, especially for our summer youth. So we can certainly work with you all on that and reaching some employers for some of those high school students. Access to other agencies and resources. We don't have everything under our roof, but we are certainly well connected to the community and can access all of the other types of needs that a family might have. And then just keeping an eye on what those future trends are and providing that to you all so you can develop the most relevant and up-to-date curriculum for your students. You don't have any questions?
Board, any questions? I do.
Yes, sir.
You say you provide access to post-secondary in the area of apprenticeships. How do you work that?
So there's several, we work with, there's several apprenticeship organizations or specifically like the unions and the different, steel workers or the electrical. And so they have their specific organizations, and we partner with them and we enroll their students into our program. We support them with certain things and maybe with financial support to pay for the training component, while they are also getting work experience with an employer that is, sponsoring them for an amount of time.
So if a student right now, say he's a junior or senior in Canuteo High School, he wants to do welding as a career. They're interested in getting into welding because the potential there is, for my understanding, pretty good wages.
Correct, yes.
Say he wants to, what would be the process for that student to get into an apprenticeship with a company or a union to be able to get? Now, would the school have to fund the training?
No, that would be funded through us, through our workforce resources. So our federal dollars are, it would depend on the person and their, all of our funding is they have to be eligible for our funding, but we have several different programs for that and different opportunities. But we would pay for the training, for the curriculum, and then we would also find the employer that would employ that student and provide that work experience.
Have we got anybody in that process, in that program right now? Ms. Sandy?
I don't know what
We have metal fabrication, so it's got a welding component to it. So Mr. Gill is working towards certifications, AWS certifications. So it would just be a matter of working with workforce to get them connected with the apprenticeship. We don't have anybody currently working in that, but we're working towards a certification.
What would be, is there any potential for us to do that?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that's something that we can follow up on directly. But what's important to note is that it's a pathway, right? So it doesn't end at high school. The expectation is that the student is going to continue into some post-secondary training after high school, continue on this path, and not necessarily just end with a welding certificate. There's because we have to look at actually which programs are in the apprenticeship program, and there are certain outputs, like you have to be a journeyman, an electrician, a journeyman, et cetera, et cetera. So but this is his entry point, and there's a long pathway that continues after high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, where does the community college fit in this?
So the community college can fit in as the training provider. So they actually do the training. So after high school, continue training at community college while being employed. So it's half time, half of the day training, half of the day working and being mentored in that field.
I'd really like to see if we could really push this idea of the Sandra,
Absolutely.
you know.
There, especially right now with, in the construction industry, all of those different types of skills are very much needed by the industry. And so they are very willing to do apprenticeship programs, and we can tailor them. They don't necessarily all have to act and behave the same way as far as a program. We can get really creative. What's critical is getting the talent. It's getting the mass amount of students into those tracks. That's the missing key. That's the missing key. Is
Explain that a little bit more.
For example, EPCC will not train one person. They're gonna need to train a lot. So it's getting the masses of, getting a large enough pool of students interested in those types of programs to create those classes. And that's what's missing. There's the input isn't there for the amount of work, in construction specifically. And there's a long list of the different types of occupations. One of the biggest, most in demand jobs in construction is a concrete finisher. Concrete finisher, which is on our hot job list. And if I don't have it in front of me, but what, do you have, off the top of your head, what is a concrete finisher like per hour?
Median, 25 to 30.
$25 to $30 an hour.
From experience, the history of a concrete finisher is one of the hardest jobs there is. If you don't have the equipment to do it mechanically. And my other question was going to be, you know, a lot of times, some of these young men, I know a couple of them, they're still doing, I don't want to say the old style way of finishing concrete, although they don't have the business acumen or the business model to be able to buy the equipment, to be able to depreciate that equipment, to be able to build that business. Is there a way that we could incorporate that for some of these?
Absolutely.
Say a student wants to get into it, show him, hey, the old style way of doing it by hand is not there anymore. We need to get these guys to use the equipment that facilitates the labor intensive portion of it.
Right, all of those industries, construction, you know, public safety, they have advanced and they're utilizing technology and equipment and machines very differently than 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it's a matter of bringing that newer curriculum into the classroom and explaining that to the students that it's modern, it's not the construction image that they have from long ago. It's very current, it's much more, you know, technology based. So they have to start with those types of skills and also the entrepreneurial skills. The entrepreneurial courses in all of these programs, we talked quite a bit about that, is a component of, it's not necessarily you working for a construction company, but you being your own independent contractor as a welder and working for 10 different companies and what that would mean in running your own business.
You know, because one of the things, and again, you're going to run into the problem that there's not enough people out there that want the training.
Right.
How are we going to address that issue to be able to get the, say, I don't know how many students the apprenticeship program would want, or maybe the community college would want, to be able to, hey, let's set up a program for concrete finishing. Do we need 3, 4, 5, 10 people? Or how do we address that in the community college or the workforce solution?
Right, we've in the last couple of years, we've attempted to create a heavy equipment operator class or other construction classes, and we've struggled with getting 15 people. So it's a hard sell. It's the same. But what we're trying to do is ask employers to give as many real work experience opportunities to the students so they can know, like, really this is what this job entails. It's not necessarily what you have in mind. They imagine being on a roof measuring it by hand like they did 10, 15 years ago. But if we were to tell them, well, today you're going to use a drone, that might change their mind, right? So, a question?
I'm going to try to be very fast. Sure. Talking about the law enforcement, what could be the easier way, or what is offering for the law enforcement? And also you said the group of students, sometimes it's 3, 4, 10. Can we make a combination from another districts to grow the class What could be done?
So the first question, was about the law enforcement. What was your question? What was the question?
Law enforcement, yeah.
What was the question now?
Well, the question is, what opportunities do they
Oh.
have in order to get into the job?
Oh gosh, there's, here you've got the
And
local.
how much could be paid? I mean,
There's local police, there's state police, there's federal agencies, there's and that's actually like on the ground. But a lot of those agencies are now doing also online police presence. So, even banks are looking at hiring public safety experienced people because they have that detective mindset. And they're looking at things online. So the police public safety force is no longer just what you see on the street, but they are embedded now in companies and in organizations looking at investigating things. So there's a long list of opportunities in public
and
safety.
this has to be after they graduate from high school, or they could be at the
They can
same
start,
time?
this is your CTE program. So the more that you can push certificates, even as close to an associate's degree, getting out of high school, they get out of high school with a certificate that they can actually get a job with.
They have to be out of high school
Yes, correct.
with that.
Correct. And then, the second question about, we try to create classes from everywhere, from wherever we can pull from. So it's a matter of attracting from different, as far as our programs, attracting from the entire region. Now, between the school districts, that might be something that you all, evaluate on whether or not you pool and you combine and mesh different CTE programs, that's amongst the districts. But from a workforce perspective, we serve everybody and we'll mix and match from the region.
To have a better accommodations or installations for the kids, right? Something that we were thinking about to target, right? Something that we would like to have the district, so thank you very much.
Just real quick, I'm sure you're familiar with the 60 to 30 plan.
That's correct. Yeah, we're in that.
The question is, how are we aligning it and how are we measuring that as we're moving forward in regards to these certifications?
So,
and for a district too, so at the macro level as well as the micro level, how do we do that?
So, I'll give you an example of what the workforce board is doing for, to affect and to impact the 60 by 30 plan specifically. So that plan says that by 2030, 60% of our population have to have an industry recognized certificate. So all of our training dollars, 100% of our training dollars are going to fund only industry recognized certificates in these types of jobs. So if it's not, if it doesn't have an industry recognized certificate, or we are not going to fund it. All of our resources are being focused and prioritized. And we are also looking at a smaller, shorter list of our target occupations list, those jobs that are above, at an even higher, the highest pay ranges, and that create the most productivity. So which are the jobs that are actually producing more value and more, our gross domestic product for the region? Which are those jobs that are moving that needle? Those are the jobs that we are adding more dollars to, because we're really trying to shift towards, let's say, the front of the boat, okay? So those are the things that we're doing. We're putting all of our money just laser focused on those occupations and those industries. And so some of this is the programs in here, the crosswalk that we did, and the recommendations, I think, would help this district move in that same direction.
And going to, I don't know if you're aware, but the future we're looking at, especially our career and technology growing, whether it's the future bond, but making sure that we develop a CAPE program that is future ready. Top of the line, I think we've seen some good examples, but our goal is to surpass that. And some of the discussion that we've had, and I just read an article last week or 2 weeks ago that I think it was Harlingen, teamed up with UT-RGV to their new school that they opened up. They actually, it's open for the kids, and then after hours it's open for the community health. So I think, how do we create that partnership, whether it's the university, I know we have partnerships with UPCC, but the workforce and some of the others. And so I guess you could touch on that, and then I have 2 more questions on that.
Sure. one of the things that I had wanted to evaluate over the summer, and I wanted to know is like your CTE programs, I know they're available obviously for your students, but could they and would they be available to the parents? To get parents back into some of these occupations. It might require a different schedule, but we've learned through data and the research that there are a lot of individuals here in El Paso that do have a high school diploma, but they don't have a certificate or the post-secondary or associate's degree. So they have a high school diploma, they're getting an income, but they are in this band. So they're working full time, but they are within this band. How do you move up? How do you go back to school when you work all day and you have kids in school? So how do we get then that adult population that is out of high school back into a post-secondary occupation? So what we're doing is trying to create as many programs that are fast and that are accessible. And not the traditional going to community college, we have to try to get the programs as close to the people as possible and deliver it in a very quick way. Semesters, the semester model is there's few programs now, I think. The shorter you can get a program, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, people are anxious right now. They're not necessarily going back to school, and if they are, they want to get done quickly.
And I guess for some of us, and probably the full board, I think it's let's think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Let's look at ways where we could really build a community as well as our students, building the capacity. And so going back to, you mentioned like EPCC only having one student. My question is, and what we're hoping, the discussions we've had is getting our teachers certified to teach those classes within, and then hopefully just growing this organically in a way that it's just beneficial, it's a win-win situation.
Right, I mean, you definitely have to start with the teachers that are able to teach these concepts but you have some very skilled individuals here in the community, may or may not already be teaching, but they have some fantastic skills that you can leverage and help your teachers then teach the most current thing. That it absolutely starts there.
And then the last question, I don't know if it's on there, but I know CDL is like a hot job.
Right.
And the conversation I was having with some individuals is, I know our kids, I don't know when the certification is required for CDL because, or how can we work like within those programs to make sure, you know, and there might be other industries or other certifications that we can look at that they probably don't get till after the age of 18, but how do we prepare them before, so once they turn that, boom, I mean, you're
It's a pathway.
25, 35.
That's correct.
Even going, I mean, the whole, here to, all the way to Midland.
Right.
It's a high demand.
That's correct, that's correct. And I understand what you mean, is creating that pathway, giving them some exposure, in high school that they can transition into that. One of the classes that we wanted to create, and the reason why, and actually what's on our hot jobs list is CDL, it's a combo. So it's not just the CDL by itself. It's what our employers need here is heavy equipment operators. So we are using our money, we're not gonna pay just for the CDL class, we're gonna pay for the CDL class if you get this combo as well, because that's what our employers here need. So we want them to learn the skills that our employers need with cranes and fork, you know, I don't even know what those things are, right? Those big yellow machines in the freeway. That's what they need, you know. So if we can, that's the thinking, the outside of the box thinking that we're trying to develop. What I will say is that the workforce board is, we have our federal dollars, they do come with strings attached, but we are still very willing and able to get as creative as possible, especially for our industry in our region. And even especially for areas. So we can say, let's do some target areas. What are the types of employers in this community? I spoke to a bank, a credit union last week that's looking at opening a branch out in this area. So we're talking to him about how do we get the residents and community and citizens from this area into the training programs that they can work there at that bank. And our office is right here in Arcraft, so they're gonna utilize our space. So those are the types of things that we're able to do. And when that comes to fruition, we'll absolutely be in touch with Ms. Andrews so that we can say, which are your students in, you know, the closest one would be like your business. Let's get some financial curriculum in this track.
Just again, thank you. I think, you know, one time we were at a meeting where you had the workforce commissioner and you had the
Yes.
higher ed commissioner
Yes,
and
that
you
was
had
us.
So yeah, but you were there too, right? So I think it's how do we align and how do we think outside the box. So any of those ideas that you are thinking, you know, in your workforce area, feel free to reach out, because I think for I think we're looking at creating, you know, a model that.
And we're really, I want to thank you for having that mindset and to doing that and to responding and to being willing to adapt to the economy. That's really what it takes and what it's about. Those employers are the ones that are going to create the jobs. So I really appreciate your vision and your ability and your support of Tracy. Tracy has us on speed dial. So she calls us and tells us, are we on the right path? So I really appreciate your willingness and to partner and absolutely keep the lines of communication open.
Anybody else?
The same question. In dealing with some of these kids, maybe the teachers or the principal of the high school, do you get a sense of what some of these kids are looking at to do, or are they interested in some of these jobs? Do they know what these jobs are going to entail, or that these jobs are in demand now? I mean, as a high schooler, I can imagine, I don't know how many nowadays are looking to say, hey, I want to be a drone operator. Do we know, or are we communicating that to these kids in the classroom?
So we've made a concerted effort to get out to our lower grades and to our middle schools. So we've done presentations and taken workforce with us.
Okay.
So not necessarily Layla goes, but she's got some colleagues that will go out and speak to them about that. So when we're talking to them about House Bill 5 endorsements or the programs that we offer, workforce is talking about what skills it takes to be that type or have that type of job. So I think we're doing a better job at getting out, talking to them about skills and what is available, what is updated, bringing workforce in so they're hearing it from a lot of different angles. So I'd have to say yes. I'd have to say yes. And there's jobs where we don't know 10 years down the road that are going to exist, but they do. And so we bring them in so we can start talking to kids about it. So yes, sir, we do.
Ms. Brigham.
Ms. Andrews and Ms. Millen, I have a question for you. On the ASVAB, high school principal said, you know, you're doing ASVAB, which is wonderful because it shows kids what they can do and where their skill set might be. It's a wonderful test. My question to you, Ms. Melendez, is that linked, the ASVAB, is that linked to the occupational titles that you were talking about as far as, you know, to help the kids, I was saying to get them on the right path, is it equatable?
Absolutely. All of the data is uniform. And so there may be different sources, but we can mix and match. There's standards. So it's based on codes, occupation, titles, and things like that we can easily do crosswalks. Yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Andrews, again, do you get a sense of how is the interest in these middle schoolers that you say you're addressing? Do you get a sense of what are they getting it? That was my question.
I mean, we get them pretty excited, sir. I mean, they're. You can ask the coordinator that goes, you know, with workforce, or when I'm out there, we get them pretty excited about it because I think that's part of it, is to get them excited about what is possible. And so, you know, that's kind of hard to gauge, but we're not only talking to them in 5th grade, we're talking to them again in 6th grade, and then again in 8th grade, and maybe their idea of these jobs have changed. And so when we're doing career profiles online with them, you know, what they thought was great last week is probably not going to be that cool this next week. So I want them to know what we've got, what we can do, what's available. And so, you know, the sky's the limit, you know, no pun intended with the drone program starting. So it really is. And so we're trying to make their experience as broad as possible, give them as many opportunities to do, or at least experience something in high school. But neurologically, they're not ready to make those decisions.
No.
We all know that.
Yeah.
So, you know, once we keep kind of pounding that information in them and give them the opportunities, I think we're doing a good job with that, certainly. So at least giving them some type of career counseling along the way.
Are we addressing this issue with the seniors, the juniors? Maybe are we thinking that it's too late for them, or
I don't know about too late, but they have made some choices at that point. So we've given them 9th and 10th grade to feel it out a little bit, and then 11th and 12th grade, we ask them to focus a little bit more, sir, because otherwise they won't finish their endorsement or get to that capstone industry-based certification. So we do our best.
Anybody else?
All right.
I have just a couple of comments. And knowledge, Mr. Bayan, we are working with Dr. Galaviz in terms of developing a survey, not just, when they started talking to the 5th graders, and what I want to do is have them develop and get, not just discussing with them and the parents, but all the way up to the 9th and 10th graders. And then keep doing that on a yearly basis to kind of let us hone in on our CTE program, a little bit more of what we have, and try to see what we can align in terms of what the regional hot jobs are. But my question to you, Ms. Melendez, is respect to the geographic area that you're talking about, this region. What is that?
The west side of El Paso, where we are in this area.
All right. In terms of your presentation of the hot jobs.
Huh?
The hot jobs.
Yeah, like the region that it covers.
Yes.
Our workforce development region, which is the 6 counties in far West Texas.
Okay.
So that's our workforce board area. So we take data
So
from that.
it goes all the way up to what, Van Horn?
Presidio, we have,
Presidio?
yeah, yes, we actually have an office in Austin as well.
So you go, sorry, I'm trying to get it, Presidio, and then up, what would it be? Jefferson County?
Culberson, Jeff Davis, Brewster,
Like the.
Oh, okay.
yes,
I got it.
yes, That's our entire service area.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll just have it.
Yes, so, with that, the presentation you made about the 2020 hot jobs, I think what we need to do is basically get together, not just with you, but the State Workforce Commission, the community college. Because I know why the problem with the community college is that they don't want, one person. We have to develop something that's more long-term for them in terms of their curriculum to be able to get a class.
Absolutely
Even
right.
if they get 10 students, 15 students one year, if they don't have them next year, so we need to try and start,
And I have these same conversations we have just as close a relationship with
Right.
community college staff as we do with Ms. Andrews, because we're constantly sharing this type of data and insight and trying to influence them in aligning that curriculum.
right, but
Absolutely.
I think apart from that, what we've also talked about as far as developing locally is to do the guarantee so that there are no issues with respect. You talked about the parents, if we make it available, of course we should do that. And I think we're gonna be able to do that for them to get into the community college deal, and maybe we can make a joint program together. And I think what we're doing in terms of the El Paso promise is to try and get 2 years of free college for every graduating senior, starting of course with our high school. To make it available eventually countywide, and not just to them, but to parents as well, not just, to the students that graduate from high school. And it's being done in other places. I think we can do it. We've got several companies interested in investing in that to get us the initial help startup. Because what these programs, when they get instituted, what they found out is that most of these individuals actually have where they qualify for some type of financial aid. So it would be this program that we want to institute countywide eventually, that would basically, put in the rest of those dollars. And, there's some company, it's gonna take a while for us to develop this, but, we are on track. Dr. Galaviz has been working hard on that. And, I just think we need to start getting more people together, more organizations together. We're gonna do, on our side, our work in terms of getting some of the bases across in what we wanna do for our district in terms of our CTE program, and then make that next jump to try and associate with community college, Texas Workforce, you all. The question I have is, I know that the state workforce does have internships for teachers. Do you all have those as well?
So technically, we are a workforce board. We're governed by the Texas Workforce Commission, so we're one of their 28 boards. So they are our mothership.
Yeah.
They're our headquarters. And so some workforce boards do apply for and get the internships for teachers. So there is some programs for that. We don't have that this year.
You don't have that?
We don't have that here, this year, but it's something that we can ask for, we can apply for and compete for, because those are
Well, I think
competitive.
once we do that, that we get our CTE program in place, that we do that, is that what we wanna do is have these classes available, taught by teachers, that, for example, whatever math is being taught in those certification areas, that our math teachers at the CTE program actually go out there and really embed themselves in the summer and find out, okay, this is exactly what they're doing. This is the math we need to teach these kids, why we need to teach this, because they're gonna be using it for this particular area. And embed these teachers in there. And that's just as an example, it can be for some various other skill sets as well.
Yeah, we'll certainly.
So that in order to do that, we can get these teachers and it's actually get more appropriate and probably help our kids better in passing these certifications.
Absolutely, the exposure that the teachers get is critical.
So,
Yes.
that's one of the things we need to do. Additionally, we also need to work, I know you probably work with the local contractors associations. I know they have their certification programs for some of these students. So there's a way where we can maybe work to what the issue you have with respect to parents, that they might also be able to help us with initially until we get this long-term program.
Okay, happy to help.
So, okay.
I'll be fast. For example, in work, hot jobs, have you ever checked or surveyed which are the ones that we have in here has more demand in the area? I know that I see a lot of them from an area, nursing and everything. Which one has more demand right now?
Off the top of my head, I have to look at the percentages, but I think in that.
Just to be, because, I mean, it's good to teach the kids, but it's something that they're really going to need it when they graduate. Something that we really need in the area, you know, they're gonna stay here.
Right.
They need to go where the targeting jobs are.
Right. So all of those on that list have at least 10% growth in the next 10 years.
But
So-
what do we have actually? What is the reason?
Yes. What is,
Yeah, which are the targeting ones that we have right now? Have you ever surveyed which ones has more demand?
yeah, we do that, so that list that you have
All of
there-
these?
Yes, all of those are the jobs that are in most demand today, and we think for the next 10 years.
Yeah, this is just this area.
And that's just this area, that's correct.
This one.
Yes, and then we update that list every year, and it doesn't change radically. In the last 4 years that we have had this list, we've maybe taken 3 jobs off and added 2 jobs, so it doesn't change very drastically. Especially like in IT and healthcare, those are not gonna change.
Transportation and logistics and, okay, in order for us to offer them, you know, the good certifications that they're really going to use.
That's absolutely
Understand what
correct.
I'm
That is absolutely what that list is for, is that resource, to know that you're,
So with no
whatever.
hesitation, if we decide one of these, this is gonna be good
Yes.
for the students.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
One other question, I didn't see anything related to airline pilot certifications.
Because we don't necessarily hire airline pilots here. So there's not an employer that's hiring pilots here.
Oh, I understand that, but
Yeah, so these are the occupations that are
a
local.
lot of geographic areas don't hire them, it's certain only areas,
Right.
but they're gonna go over it.
Right, so we're measuring and evaluating our employers. So the same with vet techs.
Right.
There's veterinary technician clinics and there's vet tech clinicians across the community, all over the city. But when you look at a class, right, that you're gonna output 25 students, 25 vet techs, in 1 year, not all 25 are gonna get hired
Right.
at that time. And that's kind of what's happened with especially the service industry. There's so much output of people into the service industry and into a medical assistant. There's only so many jobs that they can have. So then you end up you have a certificate, but your wages are stagnant and there's no growth in that job.
That's why my question was with you, I mean, something that they're really gonna use when they graduate.
That's correct.
That we're
Yes.
going to offer them, you know, this certification, and for sure they're gonna use it.
Yes, that's right. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay.
All right.
Mr. Joyner, you wanna
I just
speak
wanna
up?
ask one question.
Please come up, sir, to the microphone.
I know this is highly irregular, but I'm gonna ask this lady a question.
Okay.
That's fine.
My name is, over here? Sorry.
Please.
My name is John Joyner, and I'm a community member, and I have a small horse training farm here in the area. And I've been pushing bilingual education in this district for 13 years. Tell me how important it is to have students be biliterate when they come out with these certifications in our geographic area, please.
It's very important. It's critical, not only in El Paso, but across the country. More and more of we're seeing, our, resources, our asset, our bilingual students, our bilingual community is an asset, especially in El Paso, but also across the country, because the population is changing. And there are individuals that are being attracted into other communities that they can speak to their clients and to their customers in dual languages. Absolutely, it's critical to teach that.
So then the certification is in both languages?
If they can learn and they can speak both, and speak and write and communicate in more than one language.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
All right. Thank you, Ms. Melendez.
Thank you.
Next agenda item.
Item C, discussion regarding the Lone Star Governance Student Outcome Goal 2. By June 2022, 4th and 7th grade students will improve writing master level by 8%, increasing master level from 0 to 8%. Good evening. Good evening, trustees, board president Coronado, Dr. Galaviz.
Good evening. Ms. Arroyo.
So tonight, our focus for LSG is our student outcome goal number 2, which is writing. And so I want to apologize in advance. I know there was a question about the data, and we did, find some issues with between reporting the data to you and our data analysis processes. So we're going to be working on trying to work through our windows and all of that we have set up for the campuses in such ways that we'll be able to report the data to you in a more timely manner. So I want to apologize in advance, but this is a process that we're working and learning through, but it's been very good for us, I think, as a team. And I want to introduce Natalie Spalloni, our ELAR coordinator, and also Sandra Cavillo, our early childhood coordinator. I want to thank them for being here tonight.
I'm sorry, what's your specialty?
English language arts. My name is Natalie Spalloni.
And you?
I'm the early childhood coordinator.
Early child.
And she's Sandra Cavillo. Okay. So our writing SMART goal is to increase writing master's level by 8% by June 2022, and our SMART goal is percentage of our students who performed at STAR mastery level in STAR writing will increase from 9% to 11% in 4th grade, and from 12% to 14% in 7th grade. So when we presented to you back in September, we presented this on sort of lag indicators, which were our STAR data points. And we did that in order to build a trajectory for you based on what was going to be the work for us in the area of writing. We shared with you how we compared to the state and to the region in our writing scoring. And we also talked to you about what the state was expecting from us in the area of writing. So we spent a little bit more time on those lag indicators of STAR. And so for this presentation, we're going to be sharing with you what we are calling lead indicators. And so it's the processes that we are taking now, and also the data points that we have available for you right now. And we're going to start with K through 2.
Okay, and so writing in K through 2, we started at the beginning of the year with personal narratives, and that was kind of like our baseline. And the basis of focusing on a personal narrative at the very beginning of the school year was to see where our children were starting at and we actually started in pre-K as well. All of our pre-K teachers had their students respond to a prompt, and so we wanted to make sure that that was something that was consistent across the grade levels between pre-K and second grade to see where they were and to see what needed to be done in order to increase that growth and development in writing. And so the idea is that we also ensure that opportunities are provided for children to write throughout the day, every day, in response to literature, to make those personal connections and to make them feel confident in their writing skills and to celebrate their role as authors in the classroom. And so they did respond to a personal narrative, and we used a, so let's go to the next, I'll go ahead and show the next slide. I gave the teachers 2 rubrics. They had training on the stages of writing development in early childhood, and so they've all been trained and it's been consistent in pre-K through second grade. So we used a rubric that all teachers had been trained on and that they could use to score the writing. So on this slide, we have the stages of writing development in early childhood, and so this helps us to see that scribbling is a stage, drawing is a stage, looking at how they're forming their letters. So all of those are critical in the beginning stages of writing. So they scored the writing samples according to the stages of writing, and then they also, one of our initiatives in the district, and all of the teachers have been trained in this as well, is the Writing Academy. And so they used a rubric that would look at the overall organization of their writing composition. Now, of course, in pre-K and kinder and first grade, they're still kind of beginning with that, but this also helps the teacher to see that growth and to see, okay, so what would it look like? How are they forming their thoughts, and how are they organizing that overall piece? And so, where are we at in collecting data? So as Dr. Kearney mentioned, this has been a process, and we have never really had anything in terms of a way that we're collecting data, especially like in writing at those stages. More so our teachers collect writing samples and they put them together in a portfolio, but then how is that data used? So we're still working out the process, but this is a sample of a teacher, and I went ahead and I blacked out the names of the students, but we're creating a spreadsheet where they're collecting the data at the beginning of the year, looking at that particular prompt, and then they scored again for the middle of the year. And so this is for an individual teacher, but then we collect the data as a district, and then the hope is that when we come back in January and we have our PLCs, that we can actually look at the data and everybody is using the same rubric, and there's that consistency that we can hone in and focus on what are the next steps and how are we going to improve on that. And so this goes to our initiatives to meet those goal targets. So just to reiterate that, the first semester K through second grade teachers, I went ahead and I listed, looking at the year at a glance and the TEKs that are that they've been focusing on. You can see the alignment in K through 2, planning, developing, revising, and editing drafts in oral, pictorial, or written form, and then publishing and sharing the writing. So that's what they've been working on this school year, this first semester. And then the data from both beginning and middle and the beginning and middle of the year reflect the need to, excuse me, to move the students from the transitional stage of writing to conventional stage of writing. So we're looking at the trends and overall trying to target and focus on what the needs are. And so we will continue to use strategies from resources such as the Writing Academy, the New English Language Arts adoption, and any other resources that we feel would help with that.
This video.
Yes.
If I were to look at this page. This page that has transitional, conventional,
yes,
for the community, the board board members. Transitional exists, and we have a couple elementary principals there. What would I be saying? What does this data say? Kids on track? Is transitional good, conventional, letter name, anemic? We had the beginning of the year, but it seems like most are transitional.
Yes, so this is for first grade, and so when the teachers use this particular resource, so transitional stage could mean that they're already making the connection between the consonant and vowel sounds, and you can already see the thought process and how they're forming those letters and their sentences. And so transitional stage is the stage right before conventional writing, and so conventional writing is really where you can read exactly what that child is trying to say. They're writing complete sentences. So at the first grade level, their transitional stage at this time of year, then they are on track and they're moving closer towards the conventional stage. If they are in letter name stage, you're seeing more of, you can understand what they're trying to convey in their message, but they're still lacking some certain skills in phonics or how they're making those connections.
So I see student number, I'm just say 7. And from letter name to transitional, there's progress.
Yes.
I see student number 7, another 7, early phonemic, and you're still at.
Right.
Need some intervention.
So they need some interventions. So this helps the teacher to see if they're still at that same, and this beginning of the year prompt was given in September, and so now we're in December. So there might be cause for concern to see, okay, so what do we need to focus in on?
So the hope is, or our goal is transitional, and at the end of the year,
Conventional.
Yes, Mr. Planner, you have a question?
Bear with me, okay? And I don't know, I guess this question was, can you explain to me transitional again?
Okay, so there are several stages under transitional, but the idea is that when they're in the transitional stage, they're becoming stronger in their phonemic awareness in terms of identifying, making the connection between sounds and letter names. So if they are going through the process of writing a sentence, they can, if they want to say, for example, the word cat, they can sound it out, and then you can see the thought process behind putting those words and sentences together. So it may not be a complete sentence, but for example, they have a good grasp of a vowel sound and the consonant sound, and you can see that they're putting full words together. So if they're starting off, for example, in the pre-phonemic stage, it's a lot of scribbling and drawing. There's none of that taking place. But as they move into the transitional stage, you can see more the words are formed closer to what they need to be. Even like the word like, they might spell L-I-K. They're missing the E because they're still kind of trying to understand the silent E in that word. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, moving on. Again, my name is Natalie Spillane. I'm the Language Arts Coordinator. So I'll be offering you some data for, I service our students for elementary grades, middle and high grade. So the next slide, we see some 4th grade data here. We'll move through this table. So this year, with really reflecting on our practices and our writing and moving forward into this mastery goal, we administered a early fall ready, so beginning of year, and you see this on this slide here. This was administered in September. The way that the writing assessments are put together in the state of Texas, there are 3 parts. There's a revising and editing, and then there's an essay. So what we administered in September, which was about a month into the school year, so you're talking 4th graders for about a month, took the revising and editing portion, which are all multiple choice questions. We administered those to all the campuses, and this is the data that we collected. So you can see there, if we're looking at that goal for mastery, at this point early in the year, this is very diagnostic. So the 2% may seem low, but again, this is a month in, they were just third graders, okay, at this point. That's for the English test there, because we also test in English and in Spanish. On the second portion of the chart, you'll see the masteries again. For the Spanish assessment, that means that they write literally, or they take the assessment in Spanish. Mastery was at 1.67. But with this data, if we turn the page, we were able to then identify what standards we need to teach. And here we identified that standard 4.11 D, and this is in the convention stage. We have adjectives, we worked on comparative and superlative forms, as well as spelling of homophones. Those were standards that were lower, and also we needed to just reteach that in general. Also, if you will note on this test, it is essentially that multiple choice part of it that I mentioned, the revising and editing, accounts for 75% of the test. So just always keeping that in mind, because we will share some data concerning writing of the essay, which we administered just this month. So if you turn the page, other ways that we addressed it, so aside from all of the expertise and the great instruction that goes on within the classroom and tried and true practices, some of the real specific strategies that we work to utilize this year to make the instructional adjustments are the Writing Academy strategies. When now the students are working so when we write essays, we're also learning how to revise and edit, because also the writing process is 5 steps. We have the pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. So when we're working within those, and we can do that as writers, then we can also go back to a multiple choice test and be able to discern how to choose which sentence should be replaced, which one should be deleted, in all those kinds of movements. And then the multiple choice options are clear to us once we've written more essays in a very formulaic way. So we utilize Writing Academy strategies like our introduction within the first body paragraph, like a funnel, a turnabout, a quotation introduction, and after analyzing actual writing images from this last year, this last STAR, going through every campus and looking at what we basically get as a 4 as being the highest score. And we looked at our students that actually earned those 4s, and they utilized introductions that were along this line, being that they're stylistically original. So when the raters, the scorers in Texas score them, they're definitely impressed by what they're seeing. Not only is the student able to command an essay, but they're also able to have those strokes of writing, I want to say just creativity. They can command the language. So the Writing Academy strategies have just yielded us great results with that, and you'll see that with our essay scores in just a moment. Also, writing across the curriculum, again, we talked about that on our last visit about writing, that, when we're writing in other content areas outside of only language arts, that definitely that's an opportunity to practice the fluency and then also use our writing to learn. Also, we have the campus working on that same campus, other campuses have writing across curriculum, but this same campus also has an anthology. So meaning every grade level is also going through the process of writing, but publishing, and they're putting together an anthology where every grade level, every student will have something published in their anthology. So those are some of the initiatives in turn from that diagnostic assessment we took to now, if you turn your page, to what we now are seeing this December. So middle of the year, we administered the essay portion. So now to see how they're writing with all the instruction that's gone on from September to December. And what you will see here now, for those that have already run the data, we're seeing a mastery level at 11%. And this is with their actual physical essays of writing. That's the English, or as far as the master's, the English essay. And Spanish We have a smaller number of students writing their actual essay in Spanish, and you can see how that breaks down as far as approaches, needs, and masters with that data. Okay, and then from there, so with 4th grade, before we turn page to 7th grade, which I'm responsible for that as well, are there any questions with the 4th grade? I just covered.
At the beginning of the year, you tested 365 students. At the middle of the year, you tested 172.
Yes, because with our assessment calendar, so the way that it was put together prior to Lone Star governance, this actual month was the window for fall ready data, or is really the window on what we publish. So they're actually scoring essays as we go. So these are the scores that are just coming in as of today, like fresh off so teachers are scoring them and then they're scanning them in. And so by the end of the week, I can get you all of the students. But right now, the window is technically open right now for them to continue to put that in. The same case holds true with 7th grade essays, which I'll get to in just a moment, where we have one middle schooling and we're waiting for the other middle school to go ahead. Because I was actually at a scoring party today at AMS, and we literally score the essays and then we need to bubble them in and put them into our system or Educatoria, and that's how we get the data. Okay, so then we'll switch gears to 7th grade writing. And very similarly to 4th grade, we did the beginning of the year assessment. Again, it was a revising and editing portion, which is, in this test now, you'll see by 7th grade is 65% of the assessment. So it's changed. It's starting to shift gears in that the essay counts for more now. And again, this is multiple choice questions concerning conventions and also structural questions. It's all for students to bubble in. And here, our 7th graders for both middle schools did very well as far as, so this was encouraging. So then just even thinking about it, from 4th grade, all of that growth and that movement to 7th grade. And this was very early in the year as well. This is about 4 weeks in September, and our students were able to, you see under the approaches, needs, and the masters, the percentages that they were able to put out as a diagnostic, so to speak, in the early year. And then what we did with that information, or what we took from it, our learning, on the next slide, we found that the standard 710C, to revise draft for clarity, development, organization style, word choice, and sentence variety was our lowest standard. So we went back to instruction and worked on what does revising mean. It's not dealing with just punctuation. It's not punctuation, that's editing. Revising is structural. So where is my thesis? Where are the items there? Where do I then bring that into my body paragraphs, and where are the details? And a lot of, again, this is tried and true, but we've just acquired so many great activities and games also from the Writing Academy, which allows us to use a lot of manipulatives to learn this skill. And so that was what we knew we had to work on, worked on it, and also on the next page, we also, in tandem with that, have some other initiatives. And last time we were together, there was a little discussion about a contest, and I just was so happy to come and share this with you. That visiting with the AMS teachers, just recently, they ran a school-wide contest in tribute to a late teacher, Ms. Claudia Martinez. And they wrote, all students wrote an essay on when they had to be a tough cookie in their life, because her nickname was Cookie. And so they wrote that essay, and they it was a contest, and there was one winner, and her name, well, there's a winner and honorable mention. The teachers just shared that with me today. The winner was Valerie Raven Hernandez. And so as far as also having those other curricular elements we discussed, Mr. Coronado, as contests, I was just happy to bring that a report to you that those, and that's just one sampling of all the great things that occur out there, you know, in the campuses. Additionally, other things that are going on in the middle schools for that 7th grade writing is writing in other grade levels, 6 and 8, but also that we utilized all of those scanned images that I talked about of what our essays looked like last year and what scored deemed an 8. And so we're using those as gallery walks also to go through, so students can really identify and compare and contrast what is that we need to do to push our writing to that next level. So that was just an instructional strategy, thank you. I should know that, I say that every day. And the next page, so I'm happy to report, so like I mentioned, Mr. Khan, here we have the middle of the year essay. Again, that is just, the teachers are scoring them. They will get, ASMS will be probably scanned by tomorrow, but you can already see, the movement there. That we have masteries, at about that 4.4 on the essay. This is 35% of the assessment, but with the whole other school, there, I project that we're looking solid, as far as our writing there. So, that is essentially 7th grade. Any questions on that? Thank you.
Ms. Brigham.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's okay. Thank you for your efforts.
Oh, of course.
A question, and I know we looked at this before, and I saw the character right across the curriculum, okay? As an ex-secondary teacher, are those teachers outside of English teachers, are they going to write?
Oh, to the 5 stations just that for the secondary, it's hard to speak. I would say for elementary, the exposure to it is definitely there.
The elementary,
yes.
I know we have it covered.
Yes.
But I'm talking the secondary because I was talking to people that were hiring, from high school, and they were saying that the writings are just fancy. I mean, they were saying, as a whole, the writing's horrendous. And I know, being an ex-secondary teacher, no one really taught me how to teach writing. And no one really told me how to score writing. And no one told me what the critiques of writing were and what they meant. So my question is, are you allowing other teachers, just other than the ELAR teachers, English language arts teachers, I'm sorry, are you doing any of them? Because I think that, kids, especially middle school and early high school, they need to hear something about 10 times. Are the teachers getting the help?
Yes. So I can answer yes. So I've been honored to be in this position for 5 years now. So this body actually trained AMS, CMS, and CHS with writing across the curriculum for a year long. But I will say, Ms. Brigham, I probably need to go out and reteach again.
You do, because, what gets monitored gets done.
Yes.
It's my whole philosophy. And I do think, and especially if their grade is 35% of it, in 7th grade, those 7th grade teachers, as well as 6th grade teachers, should know it cold what's there, because I think that might be the link we're missing. And I do think, if they'll say, I'm not a writing teacher, yes you are, just like you're a reading teacher. So I think anything you can do to do that, I think you might boost up that at grade level a bit more, because then all of a sudden the kids see the relevance. Just
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I asked, Mr. Piana, I asked you, what I asked as an ex-teacher and principal at this grade level, what I was seeing is that the kids in upper elementary, middle school, and high school need to hear something about 10 times before it cements in. But what happens is our secondary teachers are content driven. In other words, I was very good in computer science and math, okay? I couldn't, you didn't want me to write paragraphs. I mean, I only wrote in bullets. Even as a principal, I wrote in bullets. So, I think there has to be a coordination, much better. And I know you're one person, hon, so that's not what I'm saying. I don't expect you to work any harder. I know you're working hard. But I think maybe it's a district initiative to make sure that writing across the curriculum is not just a buzzword, but that is absolutely, we give bang to the buck, because I'm telling you, what we saw, I mean, I had a couple of, I was at a employment fest, And I heard it from multiple employees, the kids are not writing. So when we might be successful enough for the test, we're not successful enough for their future. So that's what how we can help, let us know. And thank you again.
From your viewpoint, and maybe I should go to somebody out in the audience that would see this. Can I go out to the audience and ask questions? Ms. Melendez.
Uh-oh. Yes, sir.
And this is just my thinking, okay? Because
This is the hot seat? No.
from your viewpoint, what you've seen, are the kids writing like they should? Or where do they, and because you work with these ladies and you're all involved in, and this is what I see my responsibility as being is that we make sure that these kids are, like Mrs. Brigham says, that they're writing so that people who review their work understand that these kids know how to write a paragraph.
Well, we're starting sooner, that's for sure.
I'm sorry?
We're starting sooner, that's for sure.
Okay.
So in the past, when I taught first grade many years ago, that is the kindergarten we have today. So in kindergarten today, students are supposed to know their letters, their sound, and they're supposed to start blending and writing. So we have very high expectations for kindergartners. So by the time they leave kindergarten, they should be writing a complete sentence or two.
You just said a key word, blending.
Yes, sir.
Blending words
Sound
to the form.
to create words.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so, yes, the rigor is there because the state of Texas has enforced that. Our TEKS are higher, so therefore, in kinder, they're supposed to leave writing. The unfortunate thing is that kinder's not mandatory, and neither is pre-K, so not all children go through pre-K and kinder. So that's where our gaps begin. Where if a child didn't go to pre-K and kinder, then the first grade teacher is going to struggle a little more to get kids from that point to writing. But if you're welcome to walk our hallways anytime, and you can see the writing that our students are doing at kinder and first grade. You know, they are writing, they have interactive notebooks, they're writing for math, they're writing for science. Everything has a writing portion to it.
So that's what you're talking about, writing across the curriculum?
Right.
Okay, that explains it a lot better to me. Now, you're a middle school teacher, principal.
No, sir.
Elementary, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So to your own satisfaction, are they doing good?
Yes, we're doing a lot better, and I think because as a district, we are speaking the same language. Yes. We are now trying to implement the Writing Academy, and like Dr. Kearney mentioned and Ms. Baloney, everybody's been trained, so the expectation is that we're all doing the same thing. That the teachers are speaking the same language, that they're using the same graphic organizers, that they're using the same system of how to compose an essay.
And the Writing Academy is script or cursive?
It's writing. It's how it's script. Yes.
Our question, are you satisfied with the progress we're making?
Yes, sir.
Are you done, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Brigham.
I agree with the progress. I can see the difference. I mean, the elementary principal, we have writing workshop in every classroom now across the district. So, but where I'm seeing a little bit is the writing across the curriculum in secondary. Because I love elementary as far as because you can see it there, and I know secondary teaching. So from whence I come, so I get it. And I do think that's the point. You know what I mean? So I think we're giving it. It's the 5th grade, but as early as 6th grade, you start to see an erosion of those skills because it's not truly across the curriculum. Is it because it's lack of the teacher training, which I think might be a component, and maybe, I don't know, that's the only thing. In elementary, I agree with you 100%, but it's when you get those contained classrooms, you get the masters of one, and I think at my high school, because I think when you get to high school, then they turn out in, like me, and do bullets, you know, and so, but it was just a month ago when I went to this seminar, and they were just very telling, and people were saying secondary kids were not coming in entry-level skills, being able to write. So however you guys can come up with your collective wonderful brain power.
I think the state is addressing that. What's happened is now the state is moving where the writing test was only done at a certain grade level to now the writing being integrated with the reading. And that's why you see sometimes in 9th and 10th grade with the end of course being a more difficult, challenging test because it's more integrated together, the writing and the reading. And so now the state is moving, am I correct, Ms. Spallone? And moving the writing and the reading together and with the new TEKS. So our teachers now also have new ELAR TEKS where everything is combined, the reading and the writing. What makes a better writer is someone who's a good reader because they're able to see good writing, they're able to do that. And so now the hope is that writing will be incorporated in all the tests that we have in ELAR. It won't just be a reading test, it will be an ELAR, English Language Arts and Reading test. So
and
with
just
that,
to speak on that as an example of that, so with our new standards, again, they're not an isolation. So it used to be where you'd have a reading standard, so dealing with comprehension, and that was just your standard. Well, now all of our standards are reading, writing, listening, speaking, and thinking. So it's all integrated. So if I have a mentor text, a piece of literature that I'm reading, I'm also writing that same type of text. So it's all recursive and integral with the instruction. And I'm thinking and I'm speaking and I'm collaborating on it, all dimensions of language arts. We're really getting back to that. So I almost can leave the title English and just go around and be language arts because really it's the art of language is where we are in the state of Texas with these new standards this year. But case in point, 6th grade, I was working with the PLC at one of the middle schools and we were putting together a common assessment set that teachers create the assessments at certain points and they assess their instruction. And it used to be that it was very easy just to make a multiple choice assessment to then see whether the students understood. Well, because our new standards, so now there is a writing portion, so they have now short answers to assess the reading, and that's part of it. So the standards are creating practice in which that requires all of it to be integrated. So that will also help with that. But that does not cover every high level secondary course at the high school level. So we can definitely work on it.
Maybe this isn't, I don't know, it's gotta be connected somehow. Development of vocabulary. Okay? I don't know if I'm sure you've played Scrabble. And sometimes you try to sit there with a 3rd grader, 4th grader. Sometimes they can't get beyond the 3-letter words. How are we working to develop or increase that vocabulary in these 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade? Are we working on it?
Absolutely, we are. So there's a general fact that if we read at least 20 minutes a day, our vocabulary will increase by about a million words within a year. So reading is always, we know this, but we also have to continue to help students see themselves as readers in a very personal way, in a connected way, as being a positive. So reading exposure and talking about what we read, again, reading, writing, speaking, listening, conversing about it, we all are exchanging the language, and with that too, oh, where there's that word I don't know, but let's talk about it, and so in context very, very much, not in isolation, but very much as language, again, as I say, as an art. So we are working on it. We read tremendously. That's always, and we do have schools that are just thriving out there, and students are just reading books, sometimes for AR points, sometimes just for the fun of it, but we are reading, and that is definitely, we want vocabulary instruction in context, not in isolation. So yes, sir.
Ms. Melendez, I apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just wanted a fair assessment of, and I know you to be a very straightforward person. Thank you.
So Rodriguez.
And I think both, Maureen and you provided a segue into mine. I think when we talk about both reading and writing, that really is when you increase the rigor of it, or the vocabulary, all that changes really the trajectory of many of our kids. And if we start early on, and that's what we're starting to see. So I want to thank Dr. Galavis and the whole curriculum staff, because we've seen that continue to increase, whether it's reading camps or the writing camps. My biggest concern is, and I think what looking at is like the mirror of the curriculum, right, within our students, making sure that it relates more, and how we're integrating that in regards to, I'm sure like this tub cookie was something that these kids related to and were able to write, right? So a lot of the conferences that I've been going to lately is making sure our textbooks, whether it's the reading part and the writing, that it's mirroring what our kids, and they could see themselves within that to actually, give, I think that's where they get more animo, right, to really, whether it's read or write. So are we looking at that as well within this? I know we're doing cross-sectional, which is good, especially within different subject areas, but mirroring within what our community would see themselves in some of these textbooks.
Absolutely, and the beauty of our district's practice is that we utilize the TEAPS-RS system. So it's a curriculum put together that we have our units in, and we call it our YAG, or Year at a Glance, but it's standards. It's put together in what is the general unit, but it does not dictate what piece of text needs to be, how you teach it. It's the what and the when, but the how is also discerning. We have textbooks, but we also have the autonomy to go into the textbook and find the best piece of literature that will work with our students. If we've also inventoried our students and we've learned them early on, we know what their interests are, we're having those discussions with them, we're able to make those adaptations and pull those novels and pull them, and we know what the units of instruction are. We can choose the multimodal pieces, whatever it may be, that is going to connect with our students. And our teachers do a fabulous job of it. And we just recently, with the new standards, we also adopted new textbooks, and the teachers all voted on those. And so they are the authority on what is best and what connects with our students here in Conopio. So we have fresh textbooks in K through 5 and 6 through 8, and high school is about to adopt new textbooks as well. Did that help, Mr.
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Anybody else? Ms. Searles?
Yes, please. I was wondering if anybody does book reports in.
I can't say that they don't or they do. I just can't speak, on the whole district as far as book reports. Yeah. I mean, my inclination is to say no, but I don't know that there's possibly a teacher that may have a book report out there. I don't want to. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's book talks. That's very much a new kind of buzzword. Yeah, the reported.
And also that you understood what you read is very evident in what you wrote.
Exactly.
And it seems like that's such a no-brainer that would be an easy connect, as.
And that's what we call writing to learn. It's writing as a tool, so that then as a reader, I am able to, I would do note cards with my students. So as soon as the end, I could see on their writing where they were lost, and I could address it immediately, because writing was a tool to capture that. I didn't need someone else to tell me that the students wrote it or didn't write it there, and then I knew then. So absolutely, writing to learn does occur. We have that, you know, that is a strategy that
Just wondering
teachers
the
utilize.
correlation between
But as far
what
as
you
a
read.
formal book report, I just can't speak on that.
But summary sounds good.
Yes, summaries are written, yes, I can speak, summaries are written,
But that
absolutely.
you read it, you understood it.
You
can
summarize it,
reproduce
absolutely, yes.
All right,
Just
the audience, yes, sir.
one thing, going back to what Ms. Brigham stated, as far as content, what I think middle school teachers and high school teachers need to understand is that in math, science, and social studies, there's process standards. The process standards, for example, in math, in elementary, 4 out of the 7 process standards contain the word communicate. Therefore, regardless of what the content is, the kids, whether it be elementary, middle school, or high school, need to communicate both verbally and written, which is the output, mathematical ideas, science ideas, and all that. So therefore, writing is part of math, science, and social studies because of that very important word, which is communicate. So even if they're just content teachers, the way the new standards are, again, in those 3 other subjects, they need to be writing about it.
All right, anybody else? Mr. Payette?
This assessment, does that cover district-wide?
That's statewide, sir.
I'm sorry?
That is statewide.
No, but the question is addressed to them.
The assessment that we administered is the entire district. So for 4th grade, all the 4th graders took it, 7th grade, all 7th grade, which, is that assessment that you're referring to? Yes.
And next month you'll have the full final.
Oh yeah, the number, that is actually probably within the day or 2. So that we just need the 2nd middle school to scan.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we're just about at the end of our presentation, but I want to take the opportunity to commend our campuses. We have 2 awesome principals here that are examples of campuses that have just been really good examples of writing across the curriculum. We included a few slides with pictures from various campuses, and their campuses are actually included in these. Where the kids are excited about writing, you can go into the hallways and there's an environment with a lot of writing samples in English, in Spanish, at elementary, at secondary level, just showing that the teachers and the students are excited about this. There is the rigor, there is the relevance that you spoke about, Mr. Rodriguez, and we're seeing more and more writing every time we go and visit. And what I want you to understand is it is a challenge to teach writing. We're in an age where kids just want a text message and they don't want to really spell the words and they don't really want to write the sentence. And so when we have to, provide that writing instruction and say you've got to write a real sentence, you've got to really provide punctuation and capitalization and all of these things, they're kind of like, what? So it is a challenge, but we are seeing the progress of our students, and we're very, very proud of that. We're very proud of the hard work of the teachers and the coordinators, and definitely the administrators, and the support that they are providing to their teachers and ensuring that they are receiving the professional development that is needed to provide that rigorous instruction for the students. We're seeing that it's making a powerful difference. So we just included the slides. We kind of brought the hallways to you a little bit so you can have an idea of what is happening at the campuses. And we hope that you are finding value in this process of discussing the LSG data. It's been very helpful to us. It's been a very reflective process. We're learning from it, and I feel like it's helping us to get even better.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Payette.
I know you put some samples here in the printout, but you can't doesn't do justice to the work to the kids. I'd like to see if we can get some more realistic samples in our hands so we can see what it is that they're writing. I don't know if you can do that next meeting.
Sure, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. Something that I can actually see.
Read it, yes.
Read it. Yes.
For example, students, they start to write in both languages since elementary school, since 1st grade, and this is a continued thing all the way past 12.
Well, our dual language program goes up to 5th for the 50-50 model. So you'll see more writing samples, you know, in Spanish.
So what happened if they don't practice after?
That's a good question. So that's one area that we're working on to see if we could, extend our language
That's a
program.
choice that kids make and parents make. As a parent, I made that choice for my 2 kids, not to take Spanish, 6th and 12th grade, so I think there's an opportunity if kids want to take that, they can.
They can do it at home if they want.
No, they can do it at school, because we have Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, in middle school and high school. So there's an opportunity, and once they get to, but it's not.
I noticed today, exactly, I had a sample, my daughter, she wanted to write some thank you notes. And she was good at elementary and middle school, but now she got lost. For whatever reason, she started to copy from the text and tried to put it in the cards. She got lost. I just wanted to know what is the reason why, but now I understand that Dr. Galavis explained it. So she wanted to take Spanish 1, 2, and 3, which is not enough, but will might help. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Galavis.
Anybody else? All right, I just have a comment on, I'm glad that we're, you know, y'all told us that this has helped you kind of reevaluate how we kind of about in our instruction, but my thing is that I think we need to focus on a little more of the rigor, because with that, you know, at some point, what has to develop in the higher phase of this is the analytic reasoning of what you're doing, not just putting it together and being able to take the higher themes from, like, that's where I think what baffles me is that the state has taken out speech or communications as a requirement. It just means that's where you really synthesize. You read about what you're going to speak about, you write what you're going to speak about, you incorporate your reasoning about why you're giving this communication, and even do some research about it. And if we don't require it, that's where you can really put your entire, you know, the whole ball of wax, so to speak. To professionally communicate, which is what you all do. We all do when we get in our professions. You have to do it at some level, and yet we don't require it as a class, as a requirement. Sad. We can locally do that, and I think maybe it's time that we, as a board, focus on this as a requirement in our graduates, because we have the opportunity to do it now. Anyways, just a comment about that. Yes, Mr. Rodriguez.
If I might add to that, like the one of the conferences, the individuals that spoke at the school in Florida, the one that came on, like the high schoolers that created the school. Yeah, Parkland. They actually teach. It's a requirement to actually do speech and debate, as well as at the high school. It's an actual requirement. So that might be something to look at.
I think that's something that we need to look at that, and if we focus more on it, that's only going to make everybody step up higher. Ms. Searles.
Mr. Coronado, I think budget time is just around the corner. So maybe that could be a board incentive.
I just want to careful.
The money guy.
No, it's not the money guy, because you don't want to teach it in isolation. You want to make sure it's kind of like, go back to the workforce, where she was saying that Jerome encompassing across. So you want to make sure that, as Mr. Barbara was talking about the processes, that communication is being done. Your speech in a biology class, your speech in an algebra class, your speech in the upper, not just in isolation. Write a speech about favorite holiday.
Yeah, no,
you want to make sure it's relevant, analytical, it's purposeful. That would be my only making sure we're following those processes.
Yeah, and we can develop that curriculum in the earlier grades as well.
All that I want is our students that are very well prepared by the time they graduate. For example, if they go into the workforce, they could dominate the work. They could be better prepared. So not someone take over the job because they have more opportunities or they know more than the other ones, or they are very well prepared, more prepared than first students. That's my only reason, that when they graduate, they could have a good opportunities to be hired, more competitive, participate with.
Isn't there a UIL competition in extemporaneous speaking? When do they prepare the kids?
UIL's all the way, the speech and debate all the way into elementary, all the way on up. And what they do is an excellent job preparing the students. But again, I had kids that participated in that in elementary and middle, but probably, if I had maybe 8 kids, you know, were in that one competition. So it's great for the kids that like shine, but it's not a developmental skill for the kids. You know what I mean? It's like there's only 8 kids in it, you know, not like 28 kids. So I do think, but what I like is how they prepare them for that competition. And if we could get an everyday teacher to prepare all students for that UIL and speech, what Mr. Barber was talking about, that communication phase. And again, that talks about teacher training. So we have to make sure the processes are in for teacher training. And to go back to what Ms. Searles was saying, is that we give them money for teacher training because we haven't done that significantly in the past, near past, on aiming for that, because I think the tools are there, the state's given us guidelines and the plan, but I think we still have teachers in secondary school that haven't got the training.
I want to bring the board back to item. Item is writing in goal 2. So I want to make sure that we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. All right.
Do you have any more questions? And
That's a topic for another meeting.
Yes.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank y'all.
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
This is a
Thank
big
you.
job. This is a big job.
Very good job, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, next agenda item.
Item 5, consent agenda. Administration recommends approval as presented.
I move to approve.
One, I need, Ms. Carrasco, Chief. There's an update 114 board. I want to make sure you guys are okay. Instead of 3 board members that can request something on the agenda, talk to legal and Hasbro to request, they're recommending 2 board members and the board president. So that was one change. The other change is as a board to up our on CH local the 50,000. That's not shown in there. I know we were playing with 2 different policies. One was the update 114 that CASB sent, the one that we changed. So I just want to be okay with those 2 changes.
Ms. Searles.
I do want to remove update 114. And I called about it, and my questions were, Dr. Galate's got some of it, but the other question was not answered.
And I would be okay with that because she did ask last week. She still didn't have answers from CASB, so I'd be okay with pulling it.
And then, or do we just wait till January and do update 114 when you get all the ducks in a row and you can answer the question I asked and we just with them?
Well, I would like to have the answers here. But I know we were conflicting because we were trying to do CH local.
CH local is the purchasing, and that one, I believe, it should read 50,000, if that's what the board is in agreement with, versus the 25,000 that it says on the policy.
So we can change it now, if we're moving it to 50,000, and if you say, okay, I will submit, since this is the second reading, I will submit the policy with the $50,000 change on there. BE local, that's the policy that Ms. Searles was referring to, and it talks about.
No, also the.
Can we pull that item then and?
Well, I
Let's
just would
just,
like
let's
to
just pull that in.
postpone.
You wanna postpone it or?
Postpone till January and let Dr. Galavis get it straight.
Well, he says he's got the answers. Let's just pull
I would
it.
recommend pull the item, let's discuss it, and then hopefully it's completely good next time and we just don't have to pull it.
But is 114 attached to
The first
the
reading, was
50,000?
it correct?
You could correct it in the second
Just for the
reading.
second,
Yeah, we can correct it today.
like
Yeah.
this one and purchase and then purchase.
Alright, let's, we're gonna pull that item, besides, item C2. Alright. I will, I believe, Ms. Cock, you made a motion?
Yes.
Would you amend your motion to with the exception of item, C2?
That's correct.
Alright, do I hear a second?
Second.
Alright, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item C2. Nacho, please poll the board.
Ms. Brigham?
Yes.
Mr. Coronado?
Yes?
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
And Mrs. Strong?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Alright, now we go to C2.
So, my question, EHBB local, and this is new wording, it's under furloughs, in accordance with the board approved program. We haven't approved a GT program, and this is talking about GT. And that's something we haven't done, and so there's a blank in there that we haven't approved the program, so how can we write that into our policy when it hasn't been approved? And to the best I know, I understand what you said, Dr. Galvis, all funding was cut,
House
everything
Bill
went,
3.
yeah, everything went bad, but yet we can't approve this in good heart if we don't have anything that we approve. Or good conscience.
So, my understanding is that.
Can you come also as well?
Information on House Bill 3, and since when the funding went away, the legislature wanted to ensure that we still have a talent for the gifted program, still that money is still there, and.
Well, I guess,
Okay, so, what were your questions?
so when will we approve the program, maybe is the big question.
Okay, it'll be in January. Right now, Ms. Parker is in, was that the, you want to address the topic about that?
Yes, so Ms. Parker just came back from Taggett at the state level, and so she just found out, about more of the updated policies concerning HB3, and so she's going to be presenting for you in January so that we can approve the GT program.
So back to my initial suggestion, Dr. Galavis, wouldn't that be better approved after we approve the program?
Well, this particular provision just says that it makes sure that we're in compliance with the new regulations to apply to the program. The program doesn't have to exist now. Once we do it, it's gotta comply with this, but we
No,
don't
no.
have this,
It says in accordance with the board approved program,
Right.
the administrative regulation went away, that's scratched out.
page 19.
Page 2 of 3,
34.
but 134 in your book.
Okay.
And it's under furlough,
Okay.
right in the middle of the page.
Right.
And see, in accordance with the board-approved program, a furlough shall be granted for specific reasons and so on and so forth. But we haven't approved the program.
But the program was approved last year. I mean, we usually bring it up, we give you a GT report every year.
But we didn't have a program last year that was approved. We had a report, but we had no approved program because the funding went bad. And
I'm not sure what you mean as far as we haven't had a program. We were
I
providing
know
services.
you've been providing
Right.
services,
Right.
that is absolutely correct.
Just wait, can you hold on? Ms. Melendez, I'm gonna change, I just wanna thank you Her son will be playing baseball at the UT of Austin.
Yes.
Scout kid. So hopefully he's in a GT approved program. Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Miss Melendez.
So I think, Ms. Searles, I think because we talked about the program and the funding is there, this is update 114. And this is December. We're all receiving it in December. But our kids have been in the GT program since.
So we had GT program.
We had a GT program, and this is just that because the funding went away to make sure that the board, by law, you still have to have it.
Understand.
So I'm thinking this is just a,
Well, it's revisions to the actual policy. That's what.
yeah, but we're getting it in December, but our kids have been in,
GT, I
in a
mean,
GT approved program, not necessarily by the board. It's
but
been,
what the state is asking for is a board approved program with this. And if we're going to approve it in January, we'll see it, we'll read it, we'll tell you, yeah, we like that.
But this
Or
is-
we need a speech program in it.
but this is a policy that says the board approved. So the program that you see in January, you can say yea or nay.
Yes.
This is just to oversee the action.
And actually what we're gonna be presenting is just the report on how our services and what we're doing. That's what we provide yearly is the GT report that's required in our.
So how will we comply with this though?
I don't
In
know when
accordance
when
with the board?
GT was first started in this district, it must have been passed at one time by the board.
It was.
Yes, and so if it was
Always
passed
was.
at that time, then what we're just giving is the update on how the program is doing. That's what CNI does every year, is to give you a report on, this is where we are based on the guidelines, this is how we're doing. But, so it must have been approved
This is new language. And
because of the money has gone away.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's a whole new day. The board approved program should be, as we're gonna talk in January, board approved. Yes?
Not
So that
necessarily.
it complies with this.
But it's going to, because regardless, you could see our program in January and reject it. So it's not board approved.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you could. So you could say, hey, we want to add.
How do you feel with that?
Yeah, I'm interpreting this as a program that's been board approved. So the board approved program in place currently, regardless of funding, is in existence. So I think this revision is only saying furloughs must conform to your once upon a time board approved program. I think it would be okay for the board to act because remember that policy update 114 is voluminous and has the laws that are in there and the changes to those laws. Most of them were enacted back in September, so we're already late in the game to approve most of these things. I'm comfortable with the board moving forward and approving this revision. I don't know that this is going to come back to you for board approval. The program, I don't know that it's going to come back for approval. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
It doesn't give a specific date. So that's the, we talk about all the other programs during the budget season. But I agree with you, this is already December. I think this is just part of House Bill 3.
and this is local policy.
It is. It's a
So
legal and local.
right, and I understand you have your legal obligations, but with local you have that flexibility. So I'm even more comfortable with the board moving forward and saying, yes, this revision is fine, but it's good to have it on your radar.
But we will see it to approve it in January, Dr. Delavise.
We will see a report. Am I correct on that?
Or a program. I mean, program means just what we talked about with writing. In kinder, the little GT children are identified or not identified, too small. In first grade, these GT children meet with the parents and the teacher and go through a process of whatever. In the second grade, they move on to the taxonomy, the Bloom's taxonomy, or whatever they're gonna move on to.
I guess I'm seeing it in a different level, a different way, Ms.
Yes.
Searles. I'm thinking of it, this is like, we're approving the bilingual program every year. We don't approve the bilingual program every year. It's been approved when we first started it, and then we give a yearly report on how that's how I'm seeing it. Just like the SPED program, we don't renew the SPED program every year. We just give a report on how the SPED program is doing, or that's how I'm looking at it.
This lapse in GT,
Yes.
I hate to be pounding it, but we have had a lapse in our GT. And this is an important program for these
We'll be
very
presenting some
special
information
children.
to you in January.
Okay.
And that will definitely happen, ma'am.
And that it will have what the program is, what the parents
Sure.
expect that,
Yes.
our little geniuses are gonna go in first
Absolutely.
grade and
How many teachers, what's the program look like in elementary, how does it change in middle,
Yes.
and how does it look like in high school? Absolutely,
Okay,
we'll have that
thank you.
information.
Thank you. Okay, good.
So legal, you feel comfortable with this?
Yeah, but I would add, just to summarize this last part of the discussion, to make sure that when it is reported to the board, there's a specific, discussion or specific information provided to the board regarding furloughs, so that
Sure.
they can connect the dots and
Yes.
they understand how furloughs are going to be,
Gotcha.
issued.
Thank you.
Can I have
the
full one?
Any other,
I have one other question. Dr. Galavis, you also said 3 of the 2, and I think that was it. Okay, I'm good. So I move to approve update 114.
Second.
We already.
okay, that's right, we already have a motion and a second on this item. Any other further discussion from the board? If not,
Ms. Brigham?
Yeah.
Wait, with the revisions as discussed by Dr. Galavis.
I do have a question on the 3 to 2 that I can bring back up.
questions from what?
The other reading. I wanted to get more information, so I'll ask.
Okay. Right,
Mrs. Brew? Yes. Mr. Coronado?
yes?
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
And Mrs. Trout?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, 6
Item 6, executive session. The meeting is to be closed under Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074. A, discussion related to the participation and intervention in Public Utility Commission of Texas proceeding related to the sale, transfer, and merger of El Paso Electric Company to JP Morgan's Infrastructure Investments Fund, docket number 49849, Public Utility Commission of Texas. And B, discussion regarding recommendation of administration to terminate the probationary contract of BM for good causes, including job abandonment. The time is 7:57.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
We didn't know this part.
Oh, please.
Hey, sir, how are you? Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. Pedro Santana.
Discussion from the board.
Board President, I would just add clarification to, and suggest amending that motion that it be an objection against the sale of El Paso Electric, and not an objection against El Paso Electric itself, but more
No,
so
to the
the
sale.
applicant,
Yes.
looking to buy El Paso Electric.
And that the rate 41 is not included in the sale, apparently, that we will not be partakers of the
The
current.
settlement agreement that
Exactly.
was approved by City Council this
Yes.
afternoon. Okay.
One question, it's actually not the sale, it's the settlement agreement.
Settlement. That's correct.
Or the
Yes.
sale.
Mhm.
To object to the settlement agreement.
Not the
So
sale.
let's change to object to the settlement agreement of the sale of the El Paso Electric Company due to the rate discrimination in the rate 41 case against school districts, not for profit schools.
Good. Right here, second.
And I'll second that again, yes.
All right, we have a motion and second before the board.
Ms. Brigham?
Any further discussion with that clarification? All right.
Yes. Ms. Brigham? Mr. Coronado?
Yes.
Mr. Farian?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
Mrs. Truck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next agenda item.
Item B, discussion and possible action regarding recommendation of administration to terminate the probationary contract of BM for good cause, including job abandonment.
It's fine.
Board President, trustees, Priscilla Mata, legal counsel. I wanted to bring this to your attention. So tonight, the agenda item is, that's before you, is for your consideration of approving administration's recommendation to propose the termination of teacher BM, and I believe it's a DAEP teacher, BM for good cause, including job abandonment. So you're not actually terminating him tonight, but this is a first step in that direction. So, and just in summary, this particular teacher has been missing in action for a few weeks, possibly close to a month now. And my understanding is that the district has no information from this individual. He has not reported nor answered any of the calls or other communication that has been made by this district to see, you know, whether he's returning to the classroom or not. So given these serious issues with the teacher, job abandonment in particular, the board is considering accepting administration's recommendation to propose his termination. What that is going to do, if this board approves administration's recommendation to propose his termination, that's going to trigger a notice letter to him. That notice letter is required under the education code and will be sent by certified mail and hand delivery. Under the education code, he has 15 calendar days from the date he receives that letter to appeal or basically protest his proposed termination. Given that the school's going to be closed, it's winter break, it's the holidays, I would recommend that in that letter, in addition to what we normally put in there, the boilerplate, you know, standard language, we would also suggest as legal counsel that you extend him the courtesy of, you know, a few more days or weeks to submit a protest to the TEA. Just give him some more time in these very specific circumstances that we're reaching the holidays.
But then the move, Mr. Chair, would be to move to approve administration recommendation?
Yes, so the motion would be motion to approve the administration's recommendation to propose the termination of DAEP teacher BM for good cause, specifically job abandonment, and direct administration and legal counsel to prepare the notice letter and send it out to him and allow him an extension so that he can protest this proposed termination once the district is back in business.
So I move to approve 7B, administration recommendation to approve.
You can use my motion.
Okay, I could use it. Yeah, I move to approve.
Motion.
Okay.
A second.
We have a motion and a second on this agenda item. Do we have any further discussion from the board? Ms. Mata, do we need to put in that, in the motion, the letter that we're giving him, the exact extension amount, or we'll leave it up to administration?
We can specify a date if you'd like. The district will be back in business on the 6th.
So the calendar behind you.
15 days after that would be the 21st?
15 or 10 days?
It's 15 calendar days from the date he receives the letter, so if you wanted to give him an extra week after you're, you know, back in business, you could do so. So 10 days from the 6th, maybe January 15. And again,
My suggestion would be the 21st, because if, for example, if he says he receives it, and he says, well, I've called the first few days and nobody was there.
So
that's the 21st?
The 21st.
The 21st, January the 21st?
And just to clarify, it's a deadline not to respond to us necessarily, because we've afforded him that time.
Right.
And he has not come through, but it's a deadline to actually file his appeal to this board's proposed termination. So that means it triggers his deadline to actually reach out to TEA, request an independent hearing examiner, for a hearing on this matter. So, I understand you wanna go out to the 21st, but that's not a deadline for him to contact the district
So
necessarily.
which would be the deadline?
It can be as soon as you want, first day back in business, a week from that day, but I don't know that any more time is necessarily
Is
going
necessary, so then the 15th?
to help. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, so January the 15th? January the 15th.
Okay. So then the motion is to,
January the 15th.
accept administration's recommendations, to propose his termination, send out his notice letter,
There you go.
and allow an extension to protest this decision until January 15th
15th, correct.
of next year. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, with that, you'll amend your motion and
And
second.
Second, I agree.
All right,
Okay, Ms. Brigham?
Yes.
Mr. Coronado?
yes?
Mr. Payan?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mrs. Searles?
Yes.
And Mrs. Strong?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 8, adjournment, the time is 8:59.
By unanimous consent, we're adjourned.
Thank you.